Hey, what is going on, ladies and the gentlemen? As you can probably tell from the title, today we're going to cover the topic of how to form Japan in Europa Universalis 4. Now, there are very clearly a few reasons why you're here. Either A, you're thinking of trying to form this nation for no particular reason, just because of their interesting starting scenario and purely for the fun gameplay and strategic reasons. B, you think that the history of Japan is actually interesting, besides the romanticized parts of its history, and just want to try it out because of your utmost respect for the hardworking and disciplined culture. Or C, the most likely reason is that you're some sort of degenerative weeb, and Japan is cool and samurais and stuff is the only reason you need. Are any of these reasons more valid than the others? Well, yes, definitely, you degenerate piece of shit. Anyway, we'll go over the two main ways to form Japan. Yeah, there are other ways, such as starting as Ryukyu, pulling some weird reforms and going on from there, but we don't like to talk about that, you scummy world conquest tryhard. Instead, we're doing things the old-fashioned way, either diplomatically or militarily. One is the much more fun way, and the other is the way that'll let you be more powerful when you actually end up forming Japan. But unless you know what you're doing, will make you want to rip off your toenails because the pain would be more interesting than what you're doing right now. Either way, I'll cover both methods and put sped up gameplay of each, just because that's the right thing to do, even if playing as Ashikaga is my much less desired version. Either way, here's the main points of how the shogunate works. So as you probably know, Kyoto is the old capital of Japan before they moved it to Tokyo and basically just swapped the syllables around. This city is the capital of Ashikaga. I mean, why would I point that out when it's so obvious Ashikaga only has one province? Well, wrong. For no apparent reason, they have this over here too. Why? Who knows, but keep it in mind because it's worth like 30% of your war score if everyone ever declares war on you. Doesn't matter. Anyway, the important city is Kyoto. Why? Well, because anyone who owns it gets to have all the other daimyos under them, just like Ashikaga does at the beginning of the game. Basically, anyone who has Kyoto gets the shogunate. What are daimyos, you might ask? Well, they're a special type of government that means your overlord doesn't get crippling depression when he looks at his monthly diplo. It also means that you get less manpower and force limit because screw you and no other reason. As for the shogunate, what the actual hell is that? Well, it's the guy who owns Kyoto, and I thought we went over this already. They get special interactions with the daimyos, including murdering their leader, stealing their generals and development, and other things that are ultimately not fun when they happen to you. The shogunate government form also provides the user with some nice buttons you can click which give you either increased diplo rep, decreases celebrity desire in all subjects, and other cool stuff like that. The shogun can also slowly integrate the daimyos into his own land, and this is how you can diplomatically form Japan. So if you choose to start as Ashikaga, you'll notice how much your big daimyos basically hate your guts because they want the shogunate for themselves. What you'll be doing is looking to eat the biggest daimyos that hate you diplomatically, and make sure they don't get big enough and try to go to war with you. Oh yeah, another fun fact, when a daimyo goes to war with a shogun, they become something that's called an independent daimyo, which is pretty self-explanatory. So, the basic strategy is to eat whoever has the biggest and most powerful alliance network, because if you don't keep that in check, you'll regret it later on when you're watching your only two cities getting burned down to the ground. Also, be sure that when your daimyos are fighting amongst each other, hit that special button under subject interactions that says Force Seppuku, which, if you don't know, is the honorable Japanese art of ritual suicide. It won't end their war, but it will remove their leader, and their next leader will be much less prone to conflict in the future. You'll also get 5 monarch points per skill of the daimyo's new leader. All in all, a pretty win situation for the cost of 15% liberty desire and a weaker daimyo. All those other subject interactions I generally wouldn't click unless you find a good opportunity for them. The strategy continues as you try and integrate daimyos in groups, cause you'll have that diplomatic reputation debuff for a while each time you do. So integrate a couple of daimyos, wait, and do it again so you get boosts of power every now and then, since it's technically faster at least I think. I didn't really do the math on it, but trust me, I think it's faster. This is just a little bit of an edit after I sort of actually did play Ashikaga again for the first time in forever. Yeah, it isn't faster, just keep integrating whoever you want, and make sure you essentially have no diplo by the end of whatever you're doing, because that's how you know you're doing it right. Anyway, back to the script. Eventually, you'll find that you're powerful enough that your daimyos won't try and murder you, and that's where we'll talk about how to play as a daimyo before we continue on. When you choose which daimyo to play as, there are several factors such as national ideas, size, geography, development, and alliances. Now, you can go ahead and choose whoever you want. If you're not a strong player, maybe try a larger nation that has a bit going for them to make uniting Japan a little bit easier. If you think you know what you're doing, pick a daimyo with a really good national idea such as Oda, and that might be what you want to do. Now this is what I refer to as the fun way, not only because this is actually how Japan started unification for all you filthy weebs, but you also have the option to become the shogun if you regret your decision or want to try it out without starting over. When you start out, securing your alliances and getting a scope of your political field is important, since it's basically randomized every game except for the things that are guaranteed from the beginning, like certain alliances. After that, I highly recommend going above your force limit by 1 or 2 to give you that advantage, and then just go to town. Promise land to whatever ally you're willing to betray, and just remember that there's no such thing as coalitions since you're technically a subject state. There are stories of bugs where occasionally they will form coalitions, but when I played Japan, I had basically nothing bad happen to me. I don't know, just pray to Jake that no odd bugs occur. Essentially, the name of the game is conquering everything as fast as you can to the extent of your min-maxing abilities. This is so that Ashikaga, when you inevitably have to fight them, is much weaker. The reason why it's so viable to chain wars is because honestly, admin tech doesn't matter in the beginning, and being able to secure Japan for yourself is so important economically later on. Generally, it's better to set your focus to military for the ever-important Tech 4, but if you have a really crappy admin leader, I suggest putting your focus there. It's entirely situational though. It's also not entirely weird to find that at some point you'll be moving forward alone, as you don't want your allies to benefit too much from you being on their side. This is what happened to me the first time I played Oda, and Uesugi was just a pain in my butt to take down. Do what you have to get at least half of Japan under your belt, and then choose whether to become a shogun or not, but at that point it's a good idea to slow down a bit and start teching up your admin. Don't forget to start spawning the Renaissance in your capital when you have the chance. This is true for both shogun and daimyo paths. As shogun, at this point, if you haven't already fought numerous wars with a Korea who has absolutely no clue how to do proper naval invasions, it might be a good idea to ask Ming to become their tributary, because no way in hell are you going to be able to fight toe-to-toe with Ming when you're trying to invade the Koreans. How do you do this, you might ask? Well, this is where you'd hopefully already been teching up an admin and getting your first set of ideas. This should always end up being exploration, because you're going to need the bonuses for a lot of reasons. So when you do, your first colonists should be able to reach Taiwan. Whether or not you're independent, I recommend getting started on this. If you've become an independent daimyo or you're the shogun, this is the only way Ming will accept you as a tributary, as far as I'm aware of. Ming typically will not accept you unless they have a reason to, i.e. by not being a tributary and being right next to them, they typically lose mandate. Alternatively, if Ming decides to explode, I think it's safe to say do whatever you want, as if they could do anything about it anyway. At this point, I'm assuming you found your way to independence somehow, either through just existing, taking the shogunate, or becoming an independent daimyo. If you're not at this point, don't worry, it isn't a super huge issue, just take your time to do however much conquering or integrating you like at whatever pace you like. If you have no need to become Ming's tributary and don't want to invade Korea just yet, use your exploration ideas to discover Alaska, maybe murder Ainu, and put your colonists to work in the Philippines, Australia, or Alaska, preferably an area with a colonial nation. When you've discovered at least one province of the Americas, congratulations! Not only are you receiving extra splendor, but you also have a high chance of spawning colonialism in your country, significantly slowing down the progress of the Europeans. If it doesn't spawn in your country, don't worry. Having a colonial nation will spread colonialism to your capital, saving you tons of monarch points in the long run. This is essentially your rollout as a daimyo or the shogun. No matter what your situation is like, I recommend colonizing as early as you can for the perks I've already mentioned. At some point, you can form Japan if you have Kyoto and Musashi, which basically forces you to either become the shogun or destroy everyone on the island, since no daimyos or independent daimyos are allowed to exist for the formation to occur. That was my quick guide on how to form Japan in Europa Universalis 4. I really liked the time I spent playing Japan when I did, and I think it's one of the most unique starting positions in the game, similar to the Holy Roman Empire situation in some ways, but also unique in its own right. If you're interested in my playthrough of Japan, you can see the time-lapse I made popping up in the top right corner right about now. I started off as Oda and conquered all of China, most of India, the Philippines, and almost made it all the way over to the Ottomans when my campaign ended. Anyway, if you want to see more Europa Universalis videos like this in the future, don't forget to leave a like, as it's super helpful and really appreciated. Of course, to make sure you never miss another video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out. This is Quarbit signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day.